welcome to the Flick Pick Top 10 Worst Movies of the Year, and as a wise man once said, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And suffering's exactly what I did when I watched all 10 of these movies. Now, before we jump into my worst movies of 2013, all these movies right here flashing beside my head are shitty, terrible, awful movies. These movies are so awful, I don't even consider them real movies, and for that fact, I'm not even gonna talk about them. I'm aware that they exist, and that's enough. G.I. Joe Retaliation, the latest shit pile in the franchise of G.I. Joe. I hated the first movie, I was extremely disappointed, and going into this new movie, everyone was like, no, it's gonna be good, we learned from our mistakes, we're gonna make a better movie. And you know what? We got the guy who directed the Justin Bieber documentary to do it. Here's a true story. When I was a little boy back in the early 1990s, I used to play with G.I. Joes in my bathtub. It was an epic climax of badassery. There were G.I. Joe action figures, helicopters, and bottles of shampoo all over the place. And if some Hollywood director would have taken a camcorder and recorded my playtime in the bathtub, it would have been a better movie than G.I. Joe Retaliation. It would have been a little bit weird and creepy because in the background there's a little boy in the bathtub, but it still would have been a better movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. And when I was in the theater watching this pile of shit, I was just hoping someone would come up behind me with a chainsaw and crush my skull and then cut off my face and wear it as a mask. Nothing in this movie made any sense. There's a timeline issue that didn't really make sense with the original movie. Leatherface had a goatee. I don't know what was going on. M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's latest movie, After Earth. Now listen, I didn't always hate M. Night Shyamalan. He made some good movies. The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable. I'll even go so far as to say I enjoyed The Village, and that's giving the guy some credit. There was just so much wasted effort and potential that went into this movie, and it just failed on every single count that it possibly could. If this movie was a direct-to-DVD, some cheap, shitty sci-fi movie that you go to the Redbox and rent on a rainy day, you get it home, you never watch it, you eat some yogurt, you go to bed, and you take it back the next day. Actually, you forget to take it back for 2 days, so you gotta pay $3 for a shitty movie you never watched. That's what always happens to me when I get a movie from Redbox. Here's the best way I can explain what After Earth is. Pretend I'm Will Smith. Hey Jaden, you wanna be in a movie? Daddy's gonna buy it for you. Yeah, come on, let's go. It's called After Earth. White House Down. Now, a lot of people like this movie, and I don't really understand why. I hated this movie because it tried to be so many other things, or actually, it tried to steal a lot of other things from other movies. The movie's filled with all these generic ripoffs and rehashes of other movies, but everything they throw in White House Down has been done before, but better. And don't get me wrong, I actually enjoyed the actors that were in the movie. Channing Tatum, I don't hate the guy. He was good in 21 Jump Street. Jamie Foxx, awesome in Django Unchained. And the director of the movie, Roland Emmerich, I will always respect that man because he directed Independence Day. David, you're a cable repairman. If they want HBO, they'll call you. Next up is Grownups 2. Fuck my life. The latest evidence in Hollywood that Adam Sandler just does not give a shit anymore. But I think Jack and Jill already proved that point. The thing I hate so much about this movie is you have all these great comedians. These guys have all had great careers, but they all come together in this comedy movie, and it's not funny whatsoever. Grownups 2 is such a generic, bland, watered-down mess that tries to cater to every single demographic that it can to scoop in as much cash as it possibly can. And just like the first Grownups movie, there isn't 1 ounce of creative effort or energy that goes into this movie, and it really shows. The Lone Ranger, starring Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer in Disney's latest big blockbuster flop. Once again, Johnny Depp puts on white face paint and pretends like he's a cartoon character. Now this movie's 2.5 hours long, and I almost wanted to fall asleep at 3 times during this movie, and I'll tell you why. Here's 2 reasons why. The movie's too long for its own good, too bloated for its own good. I'm gonna make a 3rd reason right here. The movie's color palette, it's very gray, very drabby, very washed out. It's almost depressing to look at, even though it's a Western movie and it should be bright and sunny and vivid and it should be action-packed and fun and adventurous, but the movie's just so dull and bland and tiresome to look at. You just wanna go to sleep as you choke to death on your Sour Patch Kids, and you just don't wanna see the end of Lone Ranger! Because if you make a movie with a long runtime, fill it up with things that matter. Give me character development. Give me scenes that are cool and interesting. They didn't do any of that. And also the actor Armie Hammer, who plays the Lone Ranger in the movie, that guy has zero charisma. It's like watching a mannequin wearing a cowboy hat. R.I.P.D., also known as the Rest in Peace Department, also known as one of the most generic bland movies of the summer. It was one of those movies that felt like it should have came out in 2002. Also, the CGI and effects of the movie also felt like a 2002 movie. The movie starred Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges, and I love Jeff Bridges, the dude. He will always hold a special place in my heart. Over the line! Shut the fuck up, Donnie. R.I.P.D. was basically Men in Black, but rebooted, but not as good or interesting, and you didn't like anything about it. Yippee-ki-yay! A Good Day to Die Hard was one of the worst sequels I've ever seen in my life, and one of the biggest disappointments in a movie theater I've ever had. Here's the original creative process behind A Good Day to Die Hard. Hey guys, I got this awesome idea. We take this awesome action franchise known as Die Hard, right? Okay? We make it R-rated, we make another sequel out of it, right? We're gonna get a lot of money, audiences are gonna come to see it, but here's what we do. We just make the most awful pile of shit movie we can. Yeah, we write the script, nothing interesting happens, it's not very good. John McClane says that he's on vacation like 25 times throughout the movie, and then John McClane, you know what I'm talking about, right? It doesn't fucking matter. And then what we're gonna do is he's not gonna throw a punch the entire movie. Yeah, you know, the guy who was a badass action movie star in the 1980s and 1990s. Yeah, in this movie he doesn't do any of that. Make it! I love the first 3 Die Hard movies, and then Die Hard 4, I was like, I was a little bit let down by it. But after watching A Good Day to Die Hard, I love Die Hard 4 because that movie was actually kind of a real movie. A Good Day to Die Hard didn't even feel like a real action movie. Everything in it was just so polished and bland and underwhelming. And then you had Bruce Willis in the movie, and nowadays Bruce Willis just doesn't care. He's like, I'm gonna be here for 35 minutes, shoot the movie, I'm not gonna move, send me a check. Getaway, starring Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez as they cruise around in a car with GoPro cameras for an hour and a half, and it's just miserable to watch. I mean, sure, there's a lot of car chases and action throughout the movie, but the script is so terrible that it doesn't connect these things in any way to make you care about what's happening as a viewer. To me, the movie kind of felt like a music video that goes on for an hour and a half long, but without the music. And then you have Selena Gomez's character who looks like she's 12 years old, cruising around in this car with Ethan Hawke. It's just like, that looks weird. And speaking of Ethan Hawke, my #1 worst movie of the year. This was the movie when I sat there in the theater and I watched it, I was like, someone just come knock me out so I don't have to watch the rest of this pile of shit. The Purge, one of the most insulting movies I've ever seen in my life. And what I mean by that is this movie literally insulted my intelligence as a human being. Once a year in America, you're allowed to purge. You can kill who you want, do what you want to do. But Ethan Hawke's family, they lock themselves up in their house and they have all these armor-plated windows, but only on the first floor. And what does Ethan Hawke do for a living? He sells security systems. Now keep that fact in mind, because if you were a man who had the money like Ethan Hawke does, and you lived in a country where once a year it's okay to kill whoever you want to, don't you think you might have a panic room or put security on the second level of your house? Or maybe have your son not be so retarded? All the characters in this movie lacked common sense. You didn't like any of them. You wanted to see them all get gutted like pigs when someone broke in their house to try to kill them on the Purge, or at least I did, especially the son in the movie. Like, how stupid can you be? Did no one explain to you, hey, this is the one day a year where, yeah, people are allowed to kill you? You might not want to open the door. And then you have the villains of the movie. They're like these college kids, and the main guy is basically a cheap ripoff of Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. The entire concept to The Purge might have sounded like a good idea until you think about it for like 10 minutes. You're like, yeah, this actually is a stupid fucking idea. Oh, I hate the fucking Purge! I needed that. So anyway, guys, those are my top 10 worst movies of the year. And if you guys want to check out my top 10 best movies of the year, you know, go on a positive note, leave the negativity behind. I'll put an annotation to that right here. So anyway, guys, here's my question to you, and let me know down below, what was your worst movie of the year? So those were my flick picks of the worst movies of the year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.